What a ding dong.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. You're doing great. You're doing great.
I think I did it once and then I was like, oh, you didn't do it. So I did it again. And then that must have negated it. Anyway. All right. Now for real.
Yep. Oh yeah. I'm recording.
All right.
They're getting all this good stuff.
Oh yeah. They're going to love it. On 3. Yep. 1, 2, 3. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We're so glad that you're here. Now, before we do anything, this is a very important moment, especially in my life, because I get to say for the first time in earnest, it's time to synchronize our watches. That's right, dear listeners. We're going to start a timer at the exact same time. And when we do, exactly 1 hour from that time will be midnight. Okay. So on 3, start your timers. Okay. 1, 2, 3. All right. And I'll give you benchmarks along the way. Again, like half an hour, etc. But now back to what we do. As always, I am your host, Lauren Ash. And as always, I am joined by my co-hostess with the mostess, Christy Oxborrow. How you feeling?
Oh, I'm great. I mean, I'm a little hungover from last night's record.
Yeah.
We recorded the Hootenanny last night, and I don't remember the last portion of it. So
I have to say,
classic Hootenanny.
Yeah, exactly. We're 2 for 2 for Oxborough there. I think my favorite moment was when Christy texted me something today and I said, oh yeah, I know. You told me last night. It's just so rare that you're the drunker one. What a joy. What a joy.
Well, I think I just build up throughout the year and I'm like, just wait on that Hootenanny and then get your Hootenanny, like I'm ready to go. And I was, and it doesn't seem like I drank a lot, but looking back at it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's where my memories went.
Yep.
So it'll be a fun rewatch to go back.
Oh, listen, it was a joy for me. I mean, I think it was a joy for everybody, but I think what's really nice is that it's basically like we went from Christmas to today, New Year's Eve.
Yeah. The holiday's going by in a blink of an eye.
Fast.
Yeah.
Fast.
Yeah.
Now, this is what I didn't ask during the Hootenanny because it was a huge part of it. I didn't need to ask because again, it was a huge part of our content, but what you drinking over there?
Well, it looks fancier than what I am drinking. But lovely dear listener, Allie Cousins sent us these matching glasses with our names on them. But I'm not usually like a champagne wine type of gal. So it's masquerading Mike's hard sour watermelon. But you know what? It's pink, so it just looks really pretty in it.
And there's also a sparkle to that, isn't there? It's lightly carbonated.
Close enough. If you need a sparkle, look at my dress. What is this?
Oh, listen, you're already bringing. You may be still a little drunk from the Hootenanny.
I'm pretty sure I am.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
It should be noted, dear listeners, if you are listening and not watching, we have decided to don sequins. Christy is in a dark blue, and I'm in a red pink number. A lot of sequins, a lot of sparkle, because it's New Year's Eve. And I feel like that's the time. Las Vegas, Nevada, and New Year's Eve. Those are the times for sequins and sparkles.
100%. And I fully believed that you were going to say we donned our gay apparel.
Oh my God, we have donned our gay apparel.
It's what I thought you were going for. And I was like, God, we really have. And then you didn't. And I was like, oh, well, in spirit. But
listen,
we did. Yeah.
It should also be noted that I am drinking the Rosé La Marca, so the pink La Marca Prosecco, which is a delight. And I like that we didn't plan that. We planned to wear the sequins. We planned to drink out of these beautiful glasses. Thank you again to Allie. But we didn't. We're both drinking something pink, which feels right.
Oh, that feels right. I didn't even know that can had pink in it. It just worked out that way. Again, I might be still drunk.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. It also should be noted that Sweet Peaches is on my lap, which is, this is the second time recently that she's wanted to be involved in one of the records. And I like her spirit. I like her spirit.
Now it's just a lady party,
Oh, okay. I love a lady party. I mean, listen, I love all parties, all genders, obviously, but I love, get a bunch of gals doing their thing. Oh boy. Apparently I may also still be drunk from the hootenanny, which feels right. Feels right.
I think this is just the energy we want to bring in to 2022.
Absolutely. Now, as we said, we're going to do a countdown with you, dear listeners, to midnight. What else do you have? What can you expect from this episode? So many things. We're going to talk about highlights from the past year. We're going to talk about our hopes for the next year. We're going to talk about so many things, but something else we're going to do is I'm going to surprise Christy right now with something I did as a surprise. Okay, I could have worded that better.
Look, I don't know where you find the time, so.
Well, I learned it from you.
Oh, stop.
I learned it from you. Now listen, we've been doing some fun episodes, etc. I mean, gold as far as I'm concerned. But I did think maybe it would be nice as a way to round out the year.
Yeah.
To just throw a little true crime in here.
Oh, look at you, you sneaky minx. Yeah.
I got a little something hidden up my sparkle sleeve. You know what I mean?
Oh, I like it. I also might. Should we look into some sort of sparkly sequined trench? And that's our detective outfit.
Oh, my word. Yes.
If it means we have to bedazzle, I'll bedazzle.
I love the idea that we could find like a typical beige colored detective trench coat, but with beige sequins.
I mean, that's your award-winning idea right there.
Well, it was your idea. I just gave it the alley-oop at the end.
Because this is how we work.
It's why we're the perfect pair.
We really are.
Really are.
I'm not even going to be like, no, we are.
We are.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yep.
So I just wanted to do a little something. And here's what happened. And this is kind of, you'll see as I go through this case, and it isn't even really a case. You'll understand when, as I start to talk, it took on a chaotic energy that was so mirroring of what True Crime and Cocktails is. I was jazzed, and I'm so excited to give it to the listeners, but mostly to you, because as everybody knows, I only research on this show to try and impress Christy. That's it. This is the only reason. That's it. So I thought to myself, I was like, look, maybe I'll surprise her with a little bit of a true crime story of some kind. I'll just start to look into some New Year's Eve murders because that feels apropos.
Sure.
First of all, as a quick aside, lots of murders happen on New Year's Eve. Lots. Just know that. Lots of crimes in general. Obviously, DUIs and assaults, drunken disorderlies. A lot of murders. But I was going through a list that I found of the most grisly New Year's Eve murders. And there's one that stood out to me. So December 31st, 2014, a 23-year-old Tampa area man decapitated his mother with an axe on New Year's Eve because he was upset with her for nagging him to move boxes from the attic to store holiday decorations in the garage. Christian Gomez attacked his mother with an axe in their garage, striking her repeatedly until her head was severed. Then put her mother's head in a trash can outside the garage and fled the house on a bicycle. He was taken into custody a few blocks away, where he admitted to the killing. They did find the body of Maria Suarez Cassigne, who was 48 at the time, in the garage. Very tragic, very awful. Now, it should also be noted, I found it interesting because a lot of the American news sources said, well, he did it because she was nagging him so much. But then a lot of the international news sources, of course, pointed out that this person suffered from severe mental illness, was struggling with mental health issues for years. It was a strain on the entire family, and that it's actually quite a testament to how the system is broken, and his mother was looking for help. He was diagnosed schizophrenic. She could not get him to take his medications. She would try and hide them in his food. And then, of course, he discovered this, and that made his delusions and paranoia even worse. So he had been planning her murder for a few days, or he had the urge to kill her for a few days before he did. And so again, it's just really, it's not as simple as it was being made. And I know that it's more of a, sparkly headline to say, oh, he was mad about not wanting to, about her nagging, but it was really a much, much bigger, more tragic story, obviously.
Yeah.
So he was incarcerated in a state mental hospital for 3 years, obviously because of his mental health issues. And then he was declared mentally competent to stand trial. Now, I believe this is because they got him on, a steady dose of medication from what I've read.
Sure.
And in July 2018, he was facing life in prison, but he pled guilty in return for a sentence of 25 years. But it could turn into, with his time served, less than 20 years at this point, and then parole. Which again, there's a lot of nuance here, because the problem again was that this person had, deep delusions, deep paranoia, obviously acted out in the most horrific of ways. And if this person can be monitored and kept on his medications, that's one thing. But of course, I think that there are people that are close to the family that are concerned about what does that look like. And again, it's really a testament to the system and how it's broken and resources, et cetera. Now, I am not in any way shrugging off this story whatsoever. But this is where I found something fascinating. And this is where the True Crime and Cocktails chaotic magic comes in.
Of course.
So I was looking into this person and I was Googling to find more about the case. And that's when I found that Christian Gomez is the name of another person who committed a murder. In 2008 in Pasadena, California, another Christian Gomez. In 2008, he was sentenced to 130 years to life in prison for the murder of a 19-year-old in Glendale in 2005. He was also 23 when he was sentenced, which was the same age that the original Christian Gomez was when he committed the murder. Now, this second Christian Gomez was found guilty on 1 count of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder for fatally shooting a man named Jasser Zavaleta, and also shooting at his 2 companions that were not hit. Sources say that during the legal proceedings, during the trial, Gomez acted almost amused, like he was, kind of pleased with himself. But they were hoping that the weight of what he had done maybe would sink in when he got this 130-year sentence. Now, I then found that 4 years later, and I couldn't find anything to corroborate, but all of the information, the age, the name, the sentence was all the same. So I'm pretty sure it's the same Christian Gomez, died on hunger strike in a California state prison. He had been placed in solitary confinement when he was being investigated for assaulting another inmate. He had agreed to sign up for this. I guess a lot of the people that were in the prison at the time, they were doing this hunger strike to protest their conditions that they were being kept in. So it was going to be a 16-day hunger strike, which, my God, I mean, God bless you. And then he did die kind of mysteriously, but they do believe it was due to this hunger strike at the time. So that's, again. But then there's another Christian Gomez that also was charged with killing someone. Now, this Christian Gomez was convicted of manslaughter in 2014 in Australia. And now this was a case where there was 4 men involved. And this Christian Gomez was one of the 4 men. But what's wild is that while he wasn't 23 at the time, he was sentenced to 23 years. Just like the other 2 were. Yeah.
Okay.
So the first Christian Gomez, 23 when he committed the crime. The second Christian Gomez, 23 when he was sentenced. This Christian Gomez sentenced to 23 years. I mean, you see where I'm going with this.
We've all seen that movie, right?
It's like synchronicity, like crazy.
Yeah.
Now this case is wild. So this was basically 4 people were going to, the victim was a man named Bo Davies, who was apparently allegedly dealing drugs at the time, was in some drug debt. And these 4 people basically went to collect on the debt. He was very, very badly assaulted prior to his death. The word torture, being punished, being taught a lesson. These were the terms that were being thrown around. They said that he would have had to have suffered extreme pain and anguish. They do also believe it's possible that the four men who did this could have been on meth at the time. This is a speculation. But again, he was put in a garbage bin And I want to remind you, the first Christian Gomez.
His mother.
Yes.
Oof.
Yes. So then in 2020, another Christian Gomez was charged with a murder in Helmet, Texas. Now, I couldn't find out a lot about that one, but in 2021, and this is the wild one that comes together, another Christian Gomez was charged with a hit and run in San Antonio, Texas, but you're not going to believe it. He was driving a dump truck. And there's the connections with the other garbage bins. It just feels like now, luckily he hit a man on a bike and badly injured him, but that man did not die. So that is the one silver lining in that specific case. But I want to remind you, I've now found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Christian Gomez's that all have these kind of like loose. And I know that a lot of you are listening going like, Lauren, that's just a lot of coincidence or whatever. And maybe Christian Gomez maybe Christian Gomez is a really popular name. So I looked into it.
Of course. Of course.
Gomez is the 51st most common surname in the United States as of 2019. So that is a very, that's a popular common surname.
Sure.
Christian is also a popular first name for men in the United States. We know this. But we also know that first names go in trends quite often, right? Like they'll often talk about the top 10 names or whatever. So then I looked into the most recent information,
of course,
about what the top 20, and I love that this exists. And again, don't come for me. I've fact checked as best I can. And this could be right. This may not be currently accurate or not, but I did think it was interesting that I did find some information of the top 20 last names for men whose first name is Christian in the United States.
Okay.
Gomez is not in that list. It does not make the top 20. Smith is the number 1, which is the most common last name. Yeah. Then we have Johnson, Anderson, Miller, Rodriguez, Lopez, Brown, Jensen, Hernandez, Garcia, Williams, Davis, Martinez, Gonzalez, Martin, Hanson, Diaz, Jones, Lee, Perez. So while I'm not denying that Christian Gomez, who is also the name of an LA Galaxy former soccer player, I will also add, while I'm not denying that could just be a common name, it's not in the top 20 of the most common last names or name combinations for men in the United States. And with the added connection of the number 23, you've seen the movie, so have I, as well as 3 of these cases involving garbage in some way. All I'm saying is that's the kind of synchronicity and chaos that this show brings. Reporting for True Crime and Cocktails, I'm Lauren Ash.
Okay, so, wow. First thing, I love that I was like, find a paper and take notes. The idea, I love that. This is where I'm at. His mother did not deserve to die. I need to preface what I'm about to say with that. I can't believe she wanted the holiday decorations down a week after Christmas. Again, didn't deserve death for it. I'm just saying. Of course. Also, the fact that in America, it was like, oh, he was being nagged by her. Everywhere else, it was like, well, he had a mental illness. Feels very America trying to hide the severe problem.
Well, and also just like taking the first piece of information. Right.
And running with it.
That it's like, this is provocative and not giving the full story, which is not that this was just a young man in his early 20s who was, pissed at his mom, but it was like, no, he has a severe level of schizophrenia. Like it sounded like it was really something. So anyway, yeah.
Also, I mean, the fact that of the 5 in the chronological order, numbers 1, 3, and 5 are the ones connected to garbage. And 1, 2, and 3 are connected to number 23. So, and I bet if their information was available, we could find a 23 in those other ones.
Oh, 100%. And
so
listen,
I stand by it.
If you think I'm not going to get back into this, you're dead wrong. Because I started this today. It should also be noted, I discovered all of the research I just read to you, I did in less than an hour. Because I was like, I'll find a couple headlines. You know what I mean? Like something small. But then when it started to, how it is, it started to avalanche. And
that's how this works.
I thank you very much. I fact checked everything. Everything is from multiple sources. The only thing that isn't from multiple sources is the table of the most popular last names. I couldn't find anything else to corroborate that, but I will.
I know.
And when I have more time, I am going to go through this more because I'm fascinated by this.
Yes. I'm also going to, how hard do you look into the soccer player?
Great question. Not hard enough.
Well, okay.
Not hard enough.
If he ends up being number 23 on the team, I will shit.
Holy shit, you're right.
Or even 32. I'll take that as a shit too.
Oh, well, look, keep talking because I got to do it quick. We got to know in the moment.
We have to know about that, of course. Also, I should have said it first. This is so fucking wild. Also, numbers. People might be like when, and we've watched it multiple times now, but whenever my husband and I watch the number 23, I'm always immediately freaked out. Because then I'm like, well, look at all these connections that I found. And he's like, that the same could be said for anything. It's just a coincidence, whatever, but I won't let it go. Something that's always blown my mind about us with numbers. I was born in November, which is the 11th month. You were born in February, which is the 2nd. So if you add my 1 and 1, that makes 2. Your February is 2. Your birthday is the 4th, which is number 4. Mine is the 22nd. If you add 2 and 2, it gets 4. So we're both 2 and 4.
That's wild.
I know that people are going to be like, okay, that's a bit of a stretch. It's the only stretching I do.
No. And listen,
it's not.
People supported me with demon astro projecting. So I think that there'll be people on board with us.
I'm just saying that to me has always been some sort of sign that it's like, see, we are soulmates.
I agree.
That does make sense. Because what are the odds of that? I mean, I just feel like that's wild.
It's wild.
Yes.
Christian Gomez always played wearing the number 10.
Okay.
But it was worth checking. Worth checking.
We had to know.
Yep.
We had to know.
Yep.
Well, I mean, it's good to know. Great work in an hour.
Right?
Look at you.
I mean, it was wild. Like it was, again, like it just, oh boy, I spoke too soon.
Oh no.
Christian Gomez always wore the number 10, except for, I believe this is his first season, he wore number 13. 10 plus 13, baby.
What is that? Oh my God.
That's wild. I love that the other chart I found didn't go back far enough, but this goes back to the first year he played. And the first year he played, he wore 13. And every other year he wore 10. Wow.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to need to find 23s in this other stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what if the victim on the bike was 23 years old? Like, I have so many questions. But I know information is only so much, if it's only so available. So I get that.
Well, and I didn't anticipate that I would start to crack into something that I was like, oh my God, like I need more time with this. Like I need more than this out. It's why I was 10 minutes late.
Okay. Look, again, that makes sense to me. That makes sense.
I just think there was some wild synchronicity in there that,
yes,
yes, you could argue that it's all chaos and it means nothing and it's all a coincidence. Absolutely. But it just felt wild to me that there was so much of it that felt connected in some way.
Yes. I am a big believer in that coincidence only goes so far. So that is crazy.
Yep.
What did a Christian Gomez do to some sort of otherworldly being that they were like, well, all Christian Gomez's are branded with 23
or connected to 23 in some way? Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, now I want to know how old the soccer player was when he got on his first team. Like this keeps going. Like this is never ending.
Stop. But see, and that's because, people often talk about how on this show, we bring, this level of research, but it's because that's the way that both of our brains work. Our brains work exceptionally differently in how they process, but we both have the same thought process, which is like, but wait a minute, then what about this? Well, if that's true, then what about this? Then what about this? Yeah. Like we have that same, like, it's like you see one of those breakout flow charts where there's like something in the middle and there's all the sticks that come out of it. Yeah. And I think that's how it's like our nature is to be inquisitive and ask those questions and then chase those questions, because with every one of those questions, you're going to start a new ball that's going to have new sticks coming out of it. And then all of a sudden it's like, again, then you have a murder board on your wall that's true chaos. But that is why I think we go so deep, is just because we just don't let ourselves not.
Oh, I lie awake at night, many a night, just being like, okay, did I look into that? Well, what if that, like, and that's how I attempt to fall asleep, is trying to research my noggin Google. Stop it. Well, because I can't be looking at a screen or I'm never going to fall asleep. But if I'm in bed and I have to just think about it, then I will start trying to like fact check myself, make sure that I'm looking on the right thing, and be like, okay, so tomorrow you need to look into this. And then of course a list, because that's how my brain is built. But I apologize for my usage of noggin Google.
I really liked noggin Google. I liked it a lot. That
sounds like a crazy European drink, and I'd try it. Oh, crap. Is that going to be my next holiday hootenanny drink? The noggin Google.
It's mostly absinthe and just a scotch a nog. You know what I mean?
Oh, God. Well, I got to remember that.
Listen, well, thank you for indulging me. It just felt right to give a little something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, well done. The only one that I know of was the Washington case that we did, where he was found on New Year's Day, New Year's Eve. I think he was found on New Year's Eve.
It was one or the other. Yeah.
Good God. That was a year ago. I shouldn't be expected to remember this. Because that's the joke. I briefly glanced over episodes we've done this year, and I did not remember half.
Oh yeah. It's wild. You know what was wild to me? Christy sent me the list of the episodes we've done this year, and it started at number 17. And now I understand time. I get that it makes sense that we started October 2020. So we only did 16 technically in 2020.
Yeah.
I was like, from 17 to what, 65? I don't know what this is. I've lost track. But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, today is 65.
Yeah. That's a lot.
We put out 50 in 2021.
And good on us.
Yes.
Good on us. You know what I mean? Impressive.
Yes. I get now why I feel like we haven't had a break, because we haven't.
And I do love that when I tried to secretly plan a break for you, it was to take you to Las Vegas, where I just pushed it in terms of like excess, no sleep, all eating, all drinking, all partying,
Yeah.
But I stand by it.
Yeah. Oh, it had to happen.
Even though it wasn't a restful break, to me, I always stand by that it's also important to get your yayas out. You know what I mean? Like to get you like a hard party. And even if you're not a drinker or whatever, still having a hard party, getting into that like energy where you're just like, we're going to go and have fucking fun no matter what, is important.
Yes. And my dress was so short. My yaya was absolutely out. I'm so sorry. I need to time those better.
Nope. It was perfect. It was perfect.
Look, I will say, we flew home on a Sunday, and I was like, "Hey, tomorrow, hit the ground running. I got to make promos for the episode we recorded like 2 days before I flew out, all this kind of stuff, because I did not have time to do it before that. So I'm like, got to get ready." And then it was after we ran through an airport to get to our flight, and then found out that our flight was delayed by like an hour, so we didn't have to run at all. And sitting on the floor of an airport because there wasn't seats that I just turned to my husband and went, I'm taking tomorrow off.
And that's what I did, dear listeners. It was all part of the plan. If I run her into the ground hard enough, I'll force her to take a day off, whether she likes it or not.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the right way to describe it. I was viciously hungover that day. And I was just like, nope, I just want to sit and I want some grease. And that's all I needed. And then we got home and I was like, we got home also very late and we live far from where the airport is. So it was like an hour drive to get home. And then it was just like, I'm so tired. Yeah. Tomorrow we're going to get pizza and I'm going to lay around in pajamas all day and we're going to watch movies. And that's just how that day is going to go. And I'm like, those promos are going to have to wait. So yeah, not only did we have a great time, then we turned around and a break was had. So there we go.
Thank God for it.
Nevada got to see my yaya. So,
and how lucky is Nevada? Now it should be noted, dear listeners, that it's officially a half an hour until midnight.
It was the running. Like it was, I liked that a lot. And I liked the energy to it.
Thank you.
I liked where you were going with that. I also thought of something from Vegas that we forgot to mention in our Vegas recap. On the Hootenanny, and I guess it involves yayas. We found what we believe to be the world's largest jade egg.
Oh my word, that's right. And it was behind a
velvet ropes.
Thank you. Yep. It was like I lost it. So we did have the intention of trying to get our pictures taken with it.
Yeah.
But we couldn't, but you did get a picture of it. Thank God.
I did. Yeah. Because it was behind, like they had it. It's the House of Gaga or whatever it was. And so they had a bunch of her outfits and then they had this massive, what looked like a jade egg. And we laughed so hard about it, but it was behind doors and we were never in that area when it was open.
No.
So I don't even know if it was open the whole time we were there, but it's a real shame. But on the last night, just like walking to the hotel room, I was like, oh shit, we got to get a picture of that. So I at least have a picture that we can share with the people.
Yes.
So they can see what we saw in the pure comedy of that giant jade egg.
It looked like it had a trap door in the top. So there's part of me that wonders if during one of her shows, she maybe emerges from that. I don't know.
Well, that would be nice for once for someone to go in a jade egg so the jade egg can know how uncomfortable it is.
Well, I was going to say, it's like the Yakov Smirnoff of bits. It's like in Russia, jade egg, you go inside jade egg. You know what I mean?
That feels right.
Yeah.
That feels right. And if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Lady Gaga.
Oh, yeah.
That feels her style.
Yep.
But
yep.
Yeah. I just realized we have to mention it so that we have a reason we can post that photo.
You're right. And thank goodness you thought of it. Thank goodness you thought of it. Now, listen, speaking of a year ago, because you did mention that you're like, oh, stuff from a year ago, I don't remember it. Do you remember your New Year's resolution from last year? Because I know we talked about it on the show.
I believe I said that I wanted to be able to take compliments. I don't know if I said I wanted to be able to accept them just in general, or I wanted to accept them better than I did, because I'm very British in the way of getting a compliment and being like, like just anything but accepting and hearing those words. So I believe that was mine.
And how do you feel that went for you over the course of 2021?
I feel like at the beginning I was close to maybe being on my way. And every once in a while I have accepted and just been like, you know what? Yes. But I've still had a lot of moments of like, no, like, so it's baby steps. I mean, I have had a lot more, my confidence level has gone up, which is not something specifically that I had looked for, but it's something that ended up happening, because there have been moments where I will turn to my husband, which I used to jokingly, and now I do in complete earnest, where I'm just like, you are so lucky to have me. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, no, like for real though.
Yes.
And yeah, and dealing with like toxic people in my life where I'm now just like, I'm good.
Yes.
And a little less people please about it. So I feel like I maybe didn't get 100% with that one, but I feel like there were other things in a similar area that I did.
Yes. Well, I will say that I do think I've seen so much growth in you in so many ways. That goes without saying, but I think that I have seen you make growth with that resolution. I think more than you're giving yourself credit for.
See, I can't accept that.
well, I was just going to say, I was like, have you gotten all the way? Not necessarily, but
No.
I think you've made great progress. I mean, what I've seen you do now, and I say this with nothing but love, but before, if somebody complimented you, you'd be like, no. And you would try and diminish it.
Sure.
Now, what I've noticed is this. We recently had Darcy Michael guest on a Patreon episode of the show, patreon.com/True Crime and Cocktails.
Yep.
Shout out to Darcy, dear friend. So funny. Great guy. But he is an OG True Crew member. He loves the show. He listens to the show, and he was fangirling over Christy when he first came on. And you accepted the first moment. So he said something about like, you're so great, whatever. And you said, thank you, or something, like you acknowledged it.
Sure.
And then he kept going. He was more effusive, and you never diminished. You never pushed it away. But what you did was you changed the subject.
Yeah. Yeah, that's classic avoidance.
Classic avoidance, but I still was, again, you still did. It was only after there was more being piled on that you did that. And I think that's growth.
Hey, baby steps. Very rarely in the world of New Year's resolutions is it something that it's like, well, obviously it's only going to take me a year and then I'm golden. Usually they're like, if they're like truly like big life altering stuff, it's going to take you some time. So it's not 100% going to be my next resolution, but it's not going away. It's still there in the background.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
Do you remember yours?
I think mine was to not speak negatively about my body. That was my resolution for a few years running. I think that was one. Did I have more than one though? I can't remember.
What I'm learning is that maybe I should have revisited that episode before this one, because I don't recall. Yeah, I should have looked back on that episode just briefly. They were only an hour and a half back then.
So quick, so short, so effing short.
They were, yeah.
But I love that resolution. I think that's not speaking negatively in general about ourselves, but certainly about our bodies, I think is a great, I stand by that. But it's interesting because I think I've had a challenging year, and
yeah,
it's been rough. But I think that there's a few things that I have learned, or more than a few things that I've learned. I think that I've made such growth this year, but to your point that it takes more than a year, I think that's so wise and so true. Because I feel like this year, I've been in therapy for years. I'm very open about my therapeutic journey. I think that it's wonderful. I recommend it to absolutely anybody and everybody. If you had a bad experience with a therapist, I always say it took me many therapists before I found one that was the right fit for me. So it may just listen, like anybody at any job, there's good people at it and there's people that maybe aren't, or there's people that just maybe you don't gel with. And this isn't me trying to push anybody into it. I'm just saying, if you feel like it's something you could benefit from, and you've had a bad experience, I would just encourage people to try to get back on the horse, because it changed my life for the better. But I've been in for many, many years. And there was some things that happened this year through, grief and love and loss and all of those things, that I finally had a clarity in my life that I've never had before. And I feel so strong and powerful, and not every day. I mean, listen, we all have, our up days and our down days, but it's just been it's been really wonderful to feel all of the work that I've been trying to do. Just really feel like it's kind of finally come into focus, if that makes any sense.
Hey,
I think that what while I have been steadfast in trying to continue what that last resolution was, I think it became something bigger without me even knowing it, if that makes any sense.
I think that's positive.
Yeah. Yeah. And really giving myself in general the respect, not just my body, but giving me the respect that I deserve. Because I don't think that I necessarily have always done that.
I think this is really positive.
I think so too.
And I'm going to say it. You've blossomed.
Thank you.
You are, I mean, I've always felt that way about you, but like you this year, you went through the trenches and somehow didn't come out darker.
Yeah.
You know, like you went through it and still came out in the sunshine. And that is so admirable, because I don't know how I would have handled even a single one of those, let alone the back to back to back. So it's been a challenge, but it felt right to almost end it off with a wild 71 hours in Vegas.
Oh God. I mean, I felt alive. I love Vegas. Like, that's the thing. And I know that some people are like, really? But I do. I think what I love about Vegas is first of all, I just like people watching in general so much. I love like observing people. I think that a lot of actors feel that way too, though, and writers, that it's like, oh, I just like observing people. There's no better place to do it than Las Vegas, Nevada. But yeah, and it was so fun to get to take you, because you'd never been, and show you everything. And look, a happy place for me is just cruising that strip with a boozy slush in my hand. That's all I need. I'm a simple lady.
Look, I got to try the yard-long Taco Bell Cantina boozy slush.
Yeah.
Couldn't have been happier. Walking around, because as the listeners know, I like a Slurpee. And walking around with a boozy Slurpee that just tasted like a Freezy from my childhood. What a dream.
Yeah.
What a dream. Just drinking everywhere. I really like, there wasn't anything that made me stop and go, oh, yikes. Like, it was just like, we're all here. All of these like thousands of people are here because we all just want to have a good time. And about a half of us want that good time to involve horses and rodeo. But
that weekend, yes. Yeah.
It turns out, I mean, I had a huge phase in my like late teens, early 20s, where I was like, yes, please, cowboy hat and a pair of Wranglers. Not on me, on my floor. Stop.
You are still drunk from the hoot, Nanny. Oh, what a gift.
Might be. Oh God. Yeah, I don't know what that was. I think it's just the spirit of the holiday that we've crammed into 2 days. That it's just like, well, this is where we're at. Yep. She's getting loopy. Maybe that's my thing. I don't know. The point is, it was weird to be surrounded by cowboy hats when you don't see that really where I'm from. You see a few, but like the flight was full of people who were like, we're going to that rodeo. And I was like, a rodeo? And yeah, apparently it's a huge thing down there. And it was like 9 days or something, because of course we had to look into it because we can't let it go.
Yep.
But it was wild that everything was going on that weekend at that same time.
Oh, it was a thorn in my side, but we made the best of it. We made the best of it. I was just like, how is it that when I booked everyone in for this weekend, there wasn't anything booked? And then suddenly within a few weeks, it was like the largest Amazon conference in the country that weekend, the biggest rodeo for 9 days that weekend, Foo Fighters, Journey. There was a lot happening.
There was a lot, but I feel like it all just had to happen the way it happened.
Yes.
To make things happen. And so we can be in the same room as Dave Grohl.
Oh, what a gift. I will say also, I've never been to Vegas at Christmas time before, and like seeing all the Christmas trees and like everything done up. And that was so magical and fun. And it's nice too, when you bring somebody to do something that they've never done before. It's such a treat for there to be some element of it that you've never done before. I just feel like that's like such a fun thing. And there was so many trees, so many Christmas trees, so many photos of like, well, get another one of me in front of this tree. Come on, let's go.
Oh, the trees.
Let's go.
The trees were magical. I am forever a child just taken in by magical lights. It's just, so of course I knew Vegas would draw me in. But if it did anything, it made me long for Disney.
Oh, yeah.
I have not been since 2019. And I know it was a gift that I got to go at all, but I've been antsy. And then seeing like trees and seeing things, I was like, okay, I think I'm into this.
Yeah.
And I'm ready, because it was the trees and the lights and all of that made it so magical. I was like, I'm ready for the magic. I'm ready for the magic to keep going, is what I'm saying.
I totally get that. And the other thing I have to add is that as of now, it's 15 minutes to midnight.
I'll say this about Lauren.
Thank you.
When I got married, she came to be known, and this is, I know some people aren't going to like my choice of wording, but I think she came up with it herself. I'm not sure. She came to be known as the time Nazi.
Yeah.
But like in the best way, because she was like, oh, maid of honor, I'm going to do this the way it needs to be done. Yeah. So anytime we were doing anything, she's like, 15 minutes. And then just slowly backs out of frame. A frame. Oh, wow. The point is, she was always making sure to have one eye on what we're doing and one eye on a clock, because she needed to make sure we got where we needed to go on time. And I feel like that never left you. And I feel like maybe deep down, that's who you always are. Cause you're like, oh, I can't be late. And I get that, because it makes me physically ill. The concept of being late. Like I think about like, oh, I have a doctor's appointment. Okay. Well, it's in an hour. Well, how soon do I leave? Well, it's literally a 3-minute drive. Oh, I guess I could just sit in the parking lot for half an hour so I don't look like a weirdo sitting in there for half an hour, but I better be in there at least 10 to 15 minutes beforehand. Like it's a nightmare. And then I had kids, and suddenly it's like, oh, you're lucky if we're there the same day. Like we show up when we show up. My concept of time is gone. It's gone. My husband has to do like, hey, we're leaving in 10 minutes. And then he goes to the kids. He's like, hey, we're leaving in 5. So I know he's lying to both of us to try and give us how much time he thinks we need. But I'll get back into what I was doing and I'll forget. And then he'll be like, you ready? And I'm like, oh, yeah. But he budgets for that, because he knows that I'm easily distractible, and I'm just going to like off on my own and be like, yeah. I'm totally paying attention. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't mean to not be paying attention. It's just, this is who I am now.
Yeah. And, I think for me, it's just that I like to give people warning. Like I like to keep saying like, what I think is this, I like when people outline to me what their expectations are of me for something.
Sure.
So that's what I'm trying to give back, is when it's like, okay, we've got 15 minutes and then we need to move. So we're going to be leaving in 15 minutes. Does everybody hear me? We all hear me? Great. So then it's not a surprise in 15 minutes when I'm like, it's time to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think I was late for almost every single meetup in Vegas. I mean, in my defense to the dinner, which I still feel guilty about, I was 10 minutes late.
It's fine.
I don't do makeup. It's not my thing. It never has been. So this year has been a journey with that. I've never put it on drunk, and I was a full skunk by the point of us, because we did that right after the high roller.
So and we will post a photo of you double fisting on the high roller for sure.
Yeah. And and we're talking like both straws in my mouth. I was drinking out of both drinks at once and somehow it worked.
Yep.
But I was a mess. And then it was like, okay, we had like 45 minutes or an hour or something to get ready. And I was like, oh, I should have a shower. And then I was just like, oh, I should put makeup on. Oh, and like, I was so like trying to put it on while I was drunk. Oh boy, what a journey. And then trying to get everything on and then realizing, wow, that dress is short. And that it was just a whole thing. And I was like, we gotta go. And I realized, yeah, I was late for that. And then I was late, I think, the next morning. And then as we all walked in a group to get to like a tram, I was late for the train and the doors closed in on me.
She did get caught in the doors of the tram. That was an unfortunate moment.
I mean, it lesson learned. There, when they ding dong, haul ass. They mean it.
I will say in your defense, they closed a lot quicker than I thought they would. That is more than fair.
I was expecting like a Toronto, like bong bong, and like it slowly goes, but it was like bong, and like they went, and I tried to like jump in, and I was also probably still drunk or hungover. I thought I was drunk for like 16 hours. I think I was drunk for like 2.5 days. Maybe 3 days.
Yeah. Well, it starts to, I mean, I think the science of it, I mean, this is something we should research. The science of it is that, I mean, it doesn't leave your body that quickly. And I think when you ingest copious amounts, like it does take time to pass. So I think that it does stick with you. Like there is time that even if you're not actively like sloppy drunk, you're still not 100%, because you're intoxicated,
my brain had sopped up a lot and was just like a goldfish in a bowl, but up there in just vodka, or I guess it was white rum. Oh, I think it was both.
I was just gonna say, don't start to say you were only drinking one thing. That's cute that you think thing.
No, it was nonstop. I mean, the thing is, when we did the high roller, I don't like heights.
Yeah.
At all.
Yep.
I did not know that we were high up. That's where I got.
Well, here's the other thing. I had mentioned it ahead of time to your husband, and he was like, I don't think she likes heights. And I literally was like, she'll be fine. because I'm like, you can situate yourself in that car in a place where you don't have to look at the view if you don't want to. And it doesn't feel like you're moving. Like it really is just like you're in a little room drinking. So I was like, I think she'll be fine.
I mean, I was freaked out to get on it because also it doesn't stop. So as it's like slowly coming, you have to like run on. And I still had PTSD from those tram doors.
Of course.
But like you get on. And I was terrified at the idea. And I kept thinking about the height and I was sick about it. And then like a drink later, I was still like, oh boy, yep, that's a nice view. And then I looked up and I saw a sign that told you like how high you were at that point. And we were like 200 and some feet. And I was like, not going to look at that again. And then I just never thought of being high up again. And then just 2 or 3 more drinks before we got back to the ground 20 minutes later. And then it just continued from there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That was when we were waiting for a cab and it was taking forever. And then a guy came up, and I mean, this is always the beginning of a terrible story, but in this case, he had been talking to the hotel employees. So he seemed legit. And he was like, how many of you? 7. I can fit you in my SUV. I was like, great. But it was nice to get to travel as a group.
It was, especially when it was like, who wants floor? That was.
I also love that. I was like, he's like, technically I only have 6 seats, but I'm cool with it if you are. And I was like, I like your style. I wouldn't promote this any other place. I should also say we were going such a short distance. And again, it was, it's also in traffic that's moving 1 mile per hour. Like it was, we were fine. We were more than fine. That thing was also like a tank. But anyway, again, I'm not promoting that any other time.
Not. No.
Any other time.
I just like how quickly some of the gentlemen in our party were like, I got floor. like how quickly they were like, I'll do it, because the girls
and you know
were
what?
like,
You
nah.
already hit the name. You already hit the nail on the head. Gentlemen.
Yes. Yes. Because the women were like, no.
Oh no.
And we were like, no, we're getting a seat.
Yes.
Because once I get on a floor, I'm not getting back up.
Oh gosh. Yes. No lady needs to sit on the floor. And listen, I know that people are going to say that's a gender norm, etc. And you're not wrong. But I think in that case also, I think it was very chivalrous. It was Vegas chivalry. You know what I mean? That's what it was.
I agree.
Listen, we're getting very close.
We are.
We're getting very close to midnight. We got about 5.5-ish minutes. Don't go by that exactly, though. I'll give a call out when it's officially 5.
Of course.
What I love is I've also been pouring my drinks. I don't know if you listeners have, normally when we do the show, I try and make it quiet because normally Christy's talking about the crime or whatever. So I try, if I'm pouring a drink, opening a can, I'm whatever. I've just embraced the like radio play of it all. So I've been just like pouring right by my microphone. So it's like, I just think it sounds so nice, right?
Look, what you're doing is you're giving ambiance.
I'm desperately trying to give ambiance because guess what? It's 5 minutes to midnight.
Well, now I'm like, shit. Should I check Amazon for some coconuts that I can use in case we ever do some sort of case that deals with a horse? And then he ran away. Like, and just turned this into a full radio play.
I mean, we're so close considering I want to remind you what I have within my arm's reach.
Yeah.
Is a gavel.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that we aren't just full Carrot Top at this point with like here's our trunk of props.
Yeah.
Like we're going to get there. Maybe that's year 2. Maybe that's where maybe 2022.
Aren't we technically in year 2? I guess not.
I mean, we started year 2 mid-October.
That's right.
So
that's right.
We'll get there. I mean, yeah.
I mean, what a journey. And I know we're going to talk about it after the countdown, but what a journey. What a journey it's been. I know that we kind of, what's interesting is that we started in October 2020. So when it came for like the end of the year recap, obviously we had things to talk about and we kind of did it in the Hootenanny, I feel like, right? We did more of like an end of the year kind of thing.
I assume we did. Yeah.
I think so. But we didn't have a ton to talk about because again, we'd only done, that was we were around 16 episodes and we were still like, I'll say it, baby podcasters. Babies. But now that we've been in this 65 normal episodes, an extra 40 some Patreon episodes, a year and October to November, essentially 15 months in the game. We got some things to recap. We have a real full 2021, a real full year to recap if you really want to get into, because it's been, and listen, I know we've talked about it before and listen, but we would be remiss if we didn't reminisce about this. It's about us, the past year together. Yeah.
God, you're a delight.
And if people don't remember what that was from, it's from an episode that I don't remember the name of. It's from an early one. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's definitely a season 1. We talk about it in episode 50. So if they just
there you go
back to episode 50, it's in there somewhere.
Yeah. But we have it has been, and I know we say this a lot, but this is the New Year's episode. This is the time. New Year's, if nothing else, I feel like it's time to reflect on the year of all of the accomplishments. I think it's a time to be positive also. I think some people view it as like, I have to 2 minutes to midnight. I think some people think of it as like, oh, I have to look back on what I didn't accomplish or what do I need to try and do for the next year? I look at it the other way. Let's take stock of all of the amazing things we accomplished. Look at all the crazy things we did. I mean, we've done a lot in a year. It's wild.
We crammed so much in. And you're right. Last year when we did this, there wasn't a lot to recap, but
now it's a different story. I mean, we're talking television appearances. We're talking award wins. We're talking, millions of downloads. And this isn't me, humble bragging. This is me bragging, because you know what? We are programmed in society, but especially as women, to downplay our accomplishments because you never want to seem 1 minute to midnight like a braggart. And I think that's bullshit. I think that it is, we have to take the time to celebrate the wins, because it's not that we're saying it in a way that's meaning to be arrogant or rude or like we think we're better than other people. We don't at all. But it also doesn't mean that we can't say, hey, we did this thing and we're really proud of it, and that's okay.
We're allowed to be proud of our accomplishments.
We should be.
We put in a hell of a lot of work. We're allowed to
30 seconds to midnight.
I could not love you more. Again, there's a reason she was put on Timekeeper.
Thank you very much.
Timekeeper is a nicer name.
We should, you know what? As of now, Timekeeper. I like that better.
Yeah.
Official Timekeeper.
Are you ready?
Yep. Let's do it. 10,
10,
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! Woo! Should old acquaintance be forgotten, I never know the words. We're gonna talk about more things because we're a couple of nerds.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Right?
Oh, that was nice.
Thank you so much. Hey, cheers. Listen, if you were here, I'd kiss you on the lips.
Someday we're going to do if we didn't sleep through the last New Year's together, we probably would have.
You know what I can say now? Now I can also let loose. You know why? Because Timekeeper's main job has just ended. I was just like, I have been the one, dear listeners, just so you know, I have been the one that has been like, I'm like, we have to make sure that we time this exactly. They have to have notice. There has to be benchmarks. I don't want people not knowing when to synchronize the watches. Like, I have been the one holding the burden of like, I want this to work so badly.
Of course.
Because very genuinely, as we've talked about many times, I hate New Year's and I never have plans. And every year it feels overwhelming and etc. And I know that the other people agree with me. And I'm so grateful and joyous that we have just gotten to spend New Year's Eve with you. If you were at home listening to this, Happy New Year's to you. Again, the past couple of years have been very, very challenging. But again, I think it's important to try and take stock of the important, happy things in life. And with a new year means anything is possible. So happy New Year's to you.
Yes. Happy New Year's. What a beautiful way of commemorating the evening.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Listen, we're going to take a very quick break. We're going to top up these glasses. Peaches is snoring, so you may hear that when we come back. And we're going to come on back with more in our year in review on this New Year's Eve bonus special episode of True Crime and Cocktails. All right. On 3.
Yeah. Ooh. I'm shiny.
1, 2, 3. Welcome back to this episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We're, of course, in the midst of our New Year's Eve bonus special episode. Oh, what a joy. I have to say also, Christy, you'll appreciate this. So there's always a delay when we like try and synchronize a clap or whatever. So when we were doing the countdown, it was like on my side, it was like 10, 10, 9, 9, 8. No. It's completely fine. But it was making me giggle because I was just like, oh my gosh, this is classic. This is classic Zoom.
Of course. I mean,
now listen. Oh, go ahead.
That's just who we are. If we can't synchronize a clap, which most of it's not on us. Most of it, there's a slight delay. If we're in, how we didn't try it in person, I'll never know. But if we're in person, we can absolutely clap in time.
It's the technology.
Yes.
We're dealing with the technology, and that's not on us.
No,
not on us. Now, listen, obviously before the break, we did the countdown. What a joy. Timekeeper can take that hat off and put her boozing hat on. Oh my God. I am unwell. No, I'm very well. On the contrary, I'm just a little intoxicated. Okay. So we were going to talk about, obviously, I was teasing that obviously we have lots of highlights to talk about from this year. And Christy's compiled a little list, which I love, of some highlights, some things, some questions, basically, for us each to answer. For example, the first one being favorite case to research this year, which I love. And so I love this because I think that this is, again, like often we'll get asked these questions when we do boozy brunches on patreon.com/true crime and cocktails. And when we do lives on Instagram and Facebook, these are the kinds of questions people ask. So I feel like this is great because I feel like the people want to know this stuff. So let's start there. What can you choose? And I know it's tough because you researched a lot more than I did. Do you have a favorite from this year that you researched?
Two of them stand out the most to me.
Wow.
One, Princess Diana, because I was so giddy to get into that family tree, dig into the royals. Because I have been fascinated with them for so long. And so it was a patrons poll pick. I think it was the first patrons poll we did.
Yeah.
I could not have been more excited that that's what they chose. And so I got just so excited that I could research it. And I was reading. So that was the one where I watched like 9 documentaries and read 5 books or something.
Oh, that's right.
Because I couldn't get enough. I was like, I can't sleep. I have to focus on the royals. Like it was so heavy for me and I loved it so much. Another one that stands out for me is Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, yes.
And that specifically was just, I think, due to the timing of it, because it came as an episode after we had done a lot of heavy, brutal episodes in a row.
Yes.
And Marilyn came in as a breath of fresh air, and it felt like we were back to our original antics, as it were. And so it just felt like we were like, the boys are back in town. It felt like we were like, hey, we're back. It was nice. So that one, I guess that the research of that one, maybe that was more the record of that one, but the research was, while it was still dealing with a sad death, it wasn't the super heavy deaths that had been in the episodes prior with so many victims. And so it was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
To get to that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, I've just gone through this list because Christy did provide us with a list of the episodes. Thank God. Because I'm always just like, what did we talk about? What was the show?
Yeah.
And I went through and I starred all the ones I researched. And you know what I want to say? I want to say this. I did 10. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot.
Good for you.
But of the 50, that's 20%.
That's a lot.
That's decent.
Yes.
Decent. I also had a very demanding full-time job for the first 3 months of this year. And I still have a full-time job, which I don't talk about a lot, which is, writing and developing my own show currently. So again, I like what I said before. I was like, it's not a humble brag. It's a brag. And again, because we should, and I encourage everyone out there, don't diminish your accomplishments because you think that you shouldn't, quote, brag about yourself. I love it when people brag about themselves, by the way. When people are like, this is what I have going on and it's amazing. I'm like, that's great. And I won't know about it unless you tell me. Anyway, so you're going to love this. Okay. I'm going through the list very quickly. I will say this. I do have a soft spot for the true crime and fairy tales episodes. I really loved putting those together because I loved, really kind of, first of all, I loved applying all of my psychologist hat stuff to well-known Disney fairy tales. That was just very fun.
Yes.
And then it was really like recording them and you being so good also at like keeping a straight face. And then also like watching you like think about like little references you can throw in, and you're always throwing in song lyrics or lines from the movies. And like, I just thought those were like such a funny thing. I loved those. I did love all of the episodes I researched other than Gacy. Gacy broke me.
Yeah.
It just did. It was just a lot. Like that was a heavy one.
Yeah.
I do think that I overall, again, there's things about China changed me.
Yes.
China changed me. I love her till the ends of time. I sweet China, honestly. Bruce MacArthur, I loved because I loved the power case stuff. I loved getting into like specifics of how the police system failed. That was very interesting to me.
Right.
Similarly with Grim Sleeper, that was very interesting to me. Army Hammer and Carol Baskin, I mean, I came alive. Those were two of my early ones, but I loved finding the stuff because there was stuff in both of those that I was like, oh my gosh, like I think I've really come up with some stuff here that like no one's talking about. And I will stand by that about both of those. And then of course there was my Richard Ramirez batshit Cecil Hotel Elisa Lam episode, Astral Projection bit, which was when I was stirring the batter. And that was before I was taking on the full episodes. But if I had to choose just one, and then of course, shout out Amy Winehouse, of course, our final OG blanket gal. I want to wrap her up. Honestly, China. I think it was China. I just think that one resonated with my soul. I got into it so deeply and I watched and read so much, and learning about her, I think also where I was at emotionally, personally, and everything. I just was like, I feel like I get her. And it makes me so sad because to me, if she had just like, I wish I could have been friends with her. I wish that she could have had us. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wish that there could have just been one more voice in the conversation to her at that time. And it's so hard to speculate, but I stand by it. I just wish that, I wish it didn't turn out the way it did, because she was, again, just a great person from everything, everything you learn. Well, listen, I've already answered the next one, and it is case that broke you mentally. And that was Gacy. That was Gacy for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once again, I have two. It's possible that there's one that is so blocked in my mind that it's not coming to me. But most recently, it was Sophie, A Murder in West Cork.
Oh yeah.
Mainly the crime scene photos and the extreme amount of blood and the bloody stone that he used. We're just speculating there. I'm probably right. We think it was the neighbor.
Speaking,
that the perp used. There we go.
Fair. There you go.
Seeing the rock, it's just, it's horrifying. And it's just the crime scene specifically was what made me like, I was so ready for us to just record and get out of that because I couldn't stop seeing it in my mind. But prior to that, it was JonBenet. Because the autopsy report alone is horrifying. And I don't know if we really got into like the graphic detail of things that happened to her. But also,
no,
I don't think going through the autopsy report, I stumbled upon autopsy photos, and that was my moment of, oh, I don't need that. And I can still see it in my head. So those, I think JonBenet is always going to be there in my mind because I still see it. It's burned in there, whether I like it or not. And there was also one thing in a case that I researched for one of our June Pride Month episodes. That was the most horrifying thing I'd ever read. And it was the moment I texted Lauren and was like, okay, I'm not going to ever share this with you because I can't have you know this, but just know I'm broken now. And it was just like a level of horrifying. So I guess kind of three that broke me, although not a case. Quarantine also broke me mentally, but in like a silly way because that brought us side notes.
Yeah. Which is a beautiful silver lining to the real shit cloud.
Yeah. And again, I was in a comfortable space. I wanted for nothing. I was brought food. There were snacks. I was fine. It was just mentally, the mental cage is was a cage I didn't like being in, and it really threw me. And yeah, it wasn't a case, but that broke me mentally. And I think we saw that happen, because when I look back at those clips, it's tough to watch because my voice gets fast and high, and that's when I'm like, oh, she's going through.
That's usually when I can tell you're drunk, is when your voice gets fast and high. But yeah, you weren't drunk then. You were just a woman on the edge.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Research that you're most proud of. For me, it is twofold. It is Carol Baskin and Armie Hammer. Because Carol Baskin, I found the pilot's license, which is still, I believe, not been put out there. And again, I have not watched the new season of Tiger King, because I've seen people who've, dear listeners, True Crew members are like, we watched it and they didn't even have any of the stuff that Lauren brought. And I was like, And then with Armie Hammer, it was when I managed to connect all of those unsolved murders to locations that were their houses were all within a very short distance to properties owned by the friend that he was working with on that motel. And that's when I, sitting alone in my living room on my laptop at 2 a.m. went, do I need to call the FBI? So I was like, I think this could be something. Because here's the thing. We want to do this from afar. We don't want to be involved. You know what I mean?
No.
But I was very proud of those two things personally.
I would like to use the word perp, but I don't want to see or speak with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm at. And you should be proud of those.
Thank you.
That was excellent work.
Thank you. What about you? Is there a specific episode that you could pinpoint? I mean, everything you bring in every episode is so outstanding. It's, I'm sure, hard to choose one.
Oh, stop. See, nope, still not working on it. I'll get better. I mean, again, thank God for this list.
I know, it's so helpful.
Trying to think back on its own, it's like, oh, I don't know. I think for me, part of it was a little bit Jerry Lee Lewis, because of Jerry Lee Lewis as a singer, like the majority of the world knew he married his 13-year-old, 14-year-old cousin.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just assume that's where it stopped. And you didn't know that he had multiple wives who died mysteriously, and just so many things about him. I'm going to say there's got to be something, but there's nothing that stands out to me, because again, I am Brooklyn Nine-Nine Captain Holt. And when we finish recording, I close my eyes and, like a shake of a Etch-a-Sketch, it's gone. It's just gone out of my brain. Which is why I do so poorly when anybody asks me anything about past episodes we've done, because I'm like, what episode did we do? But yeah.
Can I tell you what? Oh my God, I also did the Britney Spears episode, didn't I? I did 11.
Yeah.
I did 11. I thought I only did 10. There you go. Can I tell you my favorite pieces of your research then, if you're not going to say your own, or if you don't have an answer for your own?
I mean, if you've got one, sure.
Oh, well, listen, I could talk forever, but there's a few things. I'm going to name 3.
Yeah.
1, Brittany Murphy. And I'm going to tell you why. And this is a moment again where I'm going to effusively brag about you happily. I watched that new HBO documentary, and no harm, no foul, no shade. There was nothing in there that you didn't bring. Sorry. There isn't. Well, it's not saying it's a bad documentary. It's a great documentary, but there was nothing in there that you missed. And to me, considering that was still early on for us, kudos to you. That proves how great your research is. Plain and simple. That's number 1. Well, number 2, and again, I could think of something from every episode, so don't come for me, dear listeners. You know that no one loves her more than me. I know you think you love her more than me, but you don't. I'm kidding. You know this. But the next one would definitely be, where is it? I just had it. Madeleine McCann. Because you said over and over again, dig under that house. And then we all know they were like, oh, they're going to dig under this house. And guess what? Oh, yes, we found something. We won't say what, but we are very certain that he killed Madeleine McCann. Yeah. Christian B being the suspect, of course. Yes. That was impressive as hell, because I also came into that episode with my own preconceived notions, and you changed them. And then months later, everything you said. Again, we haven't had a conviction yet, but the whole point is what she said is almost completely come true. And that's phenomenal. And then the last one, Ryan Singleton, there was stuff in there that I was so impressed by in terms of the times and the police and the other stories and stuff like that. I thought that, and I'm going to add a fourth because I can't stop. And that's the Glee curse. First of all, if you haven't listened to it, it's a romp. But what I loved is because both the Glee curse and the Targeted by Hate episodes that we did, Christy really created those episodes herself. She curated those episodes herself. It wasn't like we were just going by a documentary that existed and then she researched based on that. She did the research herself, and I think that's very impressive.
You are, as always, too kind.
I speak the truth only.
Well, you I guess because it's New Year's, I have to stick with thank you.
You're welcome.
There it is. Yep. She's
Favorite...
not going to diminish.
Listen. Yeah, exactly. Just say thank you and make yourself feel gross,
and,
but you just
and change the subject.
Or wait for me to do it. You know what I mean? Sit in it.
Yeah.
You got to sit in it sometimes.
Yeah.
That's something I've learned in therapy over the years. Sometimes you got to sit in it.
Hey.
Favorite episode to record? What a difficult question to answer because they're all a joy. But
I assume the romp.
The Glee curse is definitely my first answer. And I will, all jokes aside, because I, again, for people who don't know, I am trying to work in talking about the Glee curse in every episode just as a bit because I'm a dummy. But that is some of the hardest I've laughed in my entire life. Like, and I'm not exaggerating. Like, that is truly like a level. We hit a level of joy that was so high and so funny. Oh my God. Like to me, there's nothing better. And the only thing that I would add, because again, I could literally say every episode. Yeah. The only other one I would add is Marilyn Monroe, because I believe that was the incarnation, the beginning of the Hug Smugglers, where we went through time.
You're right, because that ended up with us talking about 26-foot tall statues of us that were nude.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Although I will give one more shout out, and I know I'm supposed to only choose one, and now I'm answering three.
You choose however many your heart wants to choose.
Tamala Horsford, which I know is recent, but our bit about the Muppets, and then Hogs Before Frogs.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think when this started we'd ever talk about which Muppet we'd date, but that's where we're at.
That's where we're at.
It's part of the magic of who we are. And I think some of those are my favorites, where it's not a plan. It just, we get into it and that's what happens. But thinking about us talking about those jade eggs, like I was crying so hard that I was like, we're going to have to stop recording because I can't breathe. We're not going to be able to continue. We did not edit anything out. Nope. Like I didn't think I'd be able to keep it together. But I think the romp of the Glee curse, probably for the sake of 2021, I think that was my favorite one that we recorded. I mean, there were some bonus Patreon episodes, us talking about when I got like really hard into John Larroquette.
Oh my God.
Like when we got into that and I compared, I had the Sophie's Choice of John Larroquette versus Matthew McConaughey. Those, I mean, that was a delight.
And I would like to recreate that moment if I could. And the quote was exactly this: Matthew McConaughey, I guess if I have to. John Larroquette, dear God, please. That was her quote. And that, I mean, again, the best.
Well, and you know what? I stand by it. Matthew, you are lovely. But Larroquette's got my heart.
And that's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
He's had my heart since 1987. There's no going back.
There's no going back. There's no going back to him now. Okay, I also want to know, or wanted to mention, and I've never talked about this on the show before, but I feel like I should mention it now.
Yeah.
The way my ADHD brain works is almost anything anybody says to me ever, or I hear ever, I immediately hear a song lyric. And that's why when you'll say something, I'll often respond with a song that says whatever. Just know, dear listeners and you, that the way that my brain works is that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and has been my whole life. So literally it'll be like somebody will say something with a word, and then that word makes me think of a song, and I'll be in that song, and then it like goes to something else. But it's like, that's why that happens. Like it's all the time. And I only do probably 5% of what I actually think. Just know that.
Well, I don't ever rein it in on my account. I think it's delightful.
Feel it on your fingertips. Again, like
interesting that's where you went.
Single second. Like that's what happens.
My brain went, blame it on the rain. Yeah. I, as you know, a coping mechanism that I have employed in myself, when I'm uncomfortable or like so stressed that I'm like, I'm going to mentally break, I take a page from the book of Jean-Ralphio, from Arrested Development. Was he? No, he was Parks and Rec. From Parks and Rec. Shout out Ben Schwartz. That's another one. But he sings a lot of the things that he says. And so if I'm like peak, like I feel like I'm going to explode, I'll just sing what I'm doing, or just even like a simple, like, and I'm going to explode. And that brings it down for me. And that gets me to a better level, or I'll realize how ridiculous it is that I'm stressed about something so dumb. And so it's very helpful. But again, seriously though, for real, shout out Ben Schwartz.
I love it. I just want you to know that in that amount of time, I've already thought about shout, let it all out. I thought about, oh my God, I've already lost the list because again, it's so hard for me to focus. There was two more though. I think I'm dumb, because you said dumb. And then there was one more in there too that I was thinking was something else. But yeah, that's how my brain works. Like every word that somebody says is like a trigger of a song lyric for me, which is, that's just how my brain works. All right, next one. Hardest episode to record. Woo boy.
The entirety of June.
June was hard. June was very hard.
Yeah, June. The June episodes were quite dark and hard to do. Especially, and I say this, I may regret it, but one of the episodes we recorded it, and then I went back and spent about 16 hours reworking it to make it less dark. And we recorded it a day later, and it was still heavy and dark, but not as dark as it was the first time I brought it out. And that's the only time, knock wood, that's ever happened. It was just like it was hard to get through. So we're like, yeah, let's just put a pin in that, and I'll do something to make it a little brighter, as bright as you can make murder. But I also like Madeleine McCann, Jean Bonnet, like anything that deals with children. I have a hard time, and I just, it's back to the stolen kids with Pajama Pants Bailiff, where it's like, nope, that's peak awkward and uncomfortable. So
that was technically Death Row Fugitive.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're adding Death Row Fugitive in there too.
Of course, from 2020, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kids, it's too much. Again, I don't have children, but that doesn't mean that I don't love and respect children. And yeah, Jean Bonnet, Madeleine McCann, they're tough. It's a tough thing. And I know that those are like, obviously very well-known cases, but yeah, June was tough. It was hard. It was really hard, really, really hard. And you know what, but you know what else was hard for me? Grim Sleeper was hard for me. Oof. And so was Bruce MacArthur, because those are two examples of there is a pattern that's happening. There is a specific type of person that's being targeted. There's a body count happening, and I'm not being glib, I'm being earnest. There's multiple bodies showing up and nothing is happening. And that's hard. It's hard when it's like, it was all there and nothing happened. That's tough. Ooh, this is a good question. Cases you'd like to look into next year. What do you got?
Yeah. I mean, I have mentioned it to you before, because with the movie coming out, I knew nothing about the real case that it was based on. And I was like, maybe I've debated, do we do some sort of House of Gucci sort of thing? Because I mean, it's based on a real case. She claims to be innocent. So is it solved or is it not? We don't know, but there's going to be some like background in there. I do have the book just in anticipation in case. So I'm prepared.
Yes.
And another one that's kind of been with me that I was like, maybe Sid and Nancy.
Yes.
Either both of them, or specifically just Nancy on her own. Although if you're going to talk about one, you kind of have to talk about the other. But Nancy's death alone, I was like, oh, that should be something we talk about. And then Sid dying, I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe just Sid and Nancy is going to be a whole thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
I was passionate about the LuLaRoe story when the documentary came out, but then I feel like it fizzled. I feel like people weren't as into it. But as you know, dear listeners, we also love true crime that doesn't involve murder because it exists.
It's a nice
that was
change.
On the list. One of the ones I do feel like I want to get into because of the pop culture Hollywood connection, not that he's even Hollywood, is Billy McFarland, who of course was the gentleman, I'm saying gentleman kindly, who organized Firefest, the Fire Festival, which if you haven't watched those documentaries, it is wild. That is something that I feel like I would like to do. But then I do also want to do a couple more in the serial killer series. Dahmer is someone that I know a lot about already.
Right.
And so I feel like that kind of is a no-brainer. And then the big one for me is Aileen Wuornos. I feel like that's got to happen.
Right.
In terms of serial killers. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. Right.
That's a nice variety.
Yeah. A little mixed bag.
And that's what we do in season 3. No rules, no boundaries, except there's rules and boundaries.
Rules and boundaries. Yeah.
Yeah.
Favorite show moment.
Oof. It's so wild. If you'd asked me a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I guess, maybe, I might have a different answer. I mean, Hogs Before Frogs is because they're like in that episode, like I screamed, like I full screamed like a child seeing Santa, or like a child on a ride, or like me on a ride. I don't do well. But I screamed in delight of just how beautifully that worked out. Us talking about anytime we mention the hug smugglers, anytime we mention going to someone's graduation, specifically the Ryan Singleton episode where we were like graphic detail of like, I'm not in a bra. You don't have underwear on because you like a breeze.
Yep.
That whole thing, it cracks me up. Oh, wow. I mean, there's usually something every episode that it's like, oh, that's a delight. But definitely Jade Egg hug smugglers. And Muppet fucking. Should we call it mucking? I don't know.
Yes.
Muppeting?
Yes.
I need to stop. The point is that that have all been big things that stand out in my mind currently.
Listen, all of this, yes, of course. The only other one I'm going to throw in is a bogey, because obviously Jade Eggs for me, I just don't think you can top it. But it was when you were here and we had to record Delphi and we could not get our computers to match. And so we were sitting in so close, but so far. We were sitting in two different rooms.
Yeah.
And what it was we recorded the first bit and then we took a break or whatever. Then we went into the next one. And then I looked. And so Christy's also her mic, there was something going on. So she had to hold the mic like she was a correspondent. And then and after the break, it comes back and she's in the pink coat. And that for me was a moment where I was like, this is delicious. It's so funny.
I did take the microphone out of the stand because the stand couldn't work where I was. And I just casually took off the bottom of the microphone to hold it like Oprah. Yeah.
Oprah.
Yeah.
This is my wife, Oprah. I'm Richie Cunningham, and this is my beautiful wife, Oprah. You're welcome. And now this says, and I don't know if this was just for me, it says fave merch you've designed so far. And I thank you for the question, and I'd love to answer it. It's a twofold answer. The holidays, the ghosts for Halloween, the one with the little magnifying glass and the one sipping the martini. And then the print I did for Christmas with the snowflakes and the knives and the cocktail glasses and the candy canes. I was really proud of those. I really felt like they were both really cute. And someone I've had two different people compliment me on my phone case, which I have on here with a personalized pop socket I made of Christy and I, because that's just how I roll. But I've had people compliment me on this phone case. I don't think even realizing that it was True Crime and Cocktails. Like they were just like, oh my God, that pattern, that's like true crime. That's so cool. And I was like, yes. I'm proud of both of those. I think they were my favorite. I mean, I love everything in there, but those ones I was very proud of. You're gonna love this. Do you have a favorite of what I've designed?
It is hard to choose a favorite because look at the recent True Crime and Crushes that you've done. The True Crime and Catnip was a big favorite of mine, but oh my God, also Peach's Bad Bitch. But I think in my soul, it's those ghosts.
Right?
The ghosts were so those cute. Ghosts. Yeah. I love those ghosts so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to say also, I had to go to the pet store the other day because there was like something I was out of, whatever. Anyway, they know me over there because I go in there a lot. And so for food and kitty litter and all the above. Yeah. So they know me. And anyway, I wore the Peaches Bad Bitch shirt. I was wearing it. It was not a choice. I just was wearing it. And those employees went nuts. And they were just like, oh, that shirt is great. And I was like, I designed it. Again, not a humble brag. Just a brag. And I feel good about it.
You should be proud.
Yes.
Boo to whoever started the whole, well, girls are bossy and they shouldn't be bragging because whatever. And it's like, no, stop it. We're not, sometimes we can be bossy, but just because we're showing leadership or because we're being proud of something, how is it arrogance when it's a woman, but when it's a man, it's just fine. Be proud of of your accomplishments is what I'm saying.
I agree. Now, what I love is Christy has also compiled a list of it comes from a game called Highlights of the Year. So these do not necessarily pertain to work or the podcast.
Right.
These are kind of general things, which I thought would be really fun because there's stuff in here about like pop culture and stuff like that. So I feel like we need to answer some of these too, because I am very excited about, and people often ask us stuff about this too, like along these lines. So for example, I want to start here. What's your favorite song of the year? Do you have one?
Oh, of course I do.
I know, but I had to, I wanted to cushion it just in case.
I'm so sorry. No, I do have a favorite. My favorite is Making a Fire by the Foo Fighters.
Great choice.
Obviously. I mean, the first time I heard it, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm into that. And in anticipation of the show that we went and saw while we were in Vegas, I listened to that album and some choice hits on repeat on the plane. I find that I'm a very, very nervous flyer because I'm a very, very anxious person. And I have found over the years that if I pick a single song during the flight, I never know what it's going to be. It's something my brain chooses during the flight. But I picked that song and I listened to it over and over and over again on repeat for hours. And I just focus on the words and I say, start like silently singing to myself. One time it was Aretha Franklin, Respect. And somehow that just worked. It's been Lizzo before. And this time it was Making a Fire, Foo Fighters. And there is a part in it that says like, I've waited a lifetime to live. And for some reason I was like, oh, have I done that? And I would like, it's a song, but it was in my soul. And then it said, it's time to ignite, making a fire. And I was so taken by it that on the flight, like it helped me focus when I was anxious. And then I turned to my husband. I was like, I was listening to this and this part of this song like really resonates with me. And he's like, okay. And I was like, I think I'm going to get a tattoo of it when we go to Vegas. And he's like, something you've just decided now on the way to Vegas. Are you sure you're going to do that? And I was like, yeah, I think I am. And he's like, okay. And then I did. It's just that there is something about that part in that song that makes me feel very like, I feel like, because of course I've had that, I just turned 40 and it's that whole like, oh, well, I've hit the top of the hill. Now I'm headed down the hill. And I just kind of think to myself, and this is going to be cheesy and I don't mean for it to be because this is earnest. I feel like I have existed for 40 years. I don't feel that I have lived for 40 years. And so there's something about that song that really like got into my soul and was like, now's your time. It's time to ignite, time to get going. You don't know how much time you have. Just fucking go for it. Do you want extra bacon on that? Go for it. Do you want to go fly to this other country to do something crazy? Go for it. Do it. Live your life instead of just existing. And so that's where all of it came to in my mind. And that's just kind of where I'm at. And whether Dave Grohl meant it or not, when he wrote the song, that's where I'm at.
Well, I'm fighting tears. So
yeah, that's where I'm at.
I love
it.
That.
It all comes down to Dave Grohl,
It always does.
Mm-hmm.
It always does. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
My favorite song this year, there's some that are not from this year. Do you know what I mean? Like there's some that I've been
need to be. It's when it means something to you, I think.
Yeah. Totally. But I think I will say, and I'm pretty sure it's from this year. You're going to love this. It's Doja Cat. Cat, Woman.
Yeah. Okay.
Let Me Be Your Woman. I love that song so much. And to me, it's just about like, because I feel like it's easy if you kind of look at that song about like, it's someone you could look at it through the lens of like someone being like, please let me be your woman. But I don't think it's that. I think it's more just about I think it's more about like empowerment and about like, I'm at the top of my fucking game. Look how fucking hot I am. You don't want this? Like that's the vibe I get from that song.
That matches the vibe that you've brought this year. And rightfully so.
Well, in the past couple of months. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So that makes complete sense.
Yeah. And I love it. And I love that whole Doja Cat album, to be honest with you. And I will say this, and this is not a slight towards her because obviously I love her. That's not the kind of music I typically listen to.
Sure.
But there's just something about it. And I love supporting women. And I just, that's for me. I love that song. That's my song of the year.
Hey. Yeah. Well, look at us having answers for that.
Look at us having answers. I felt like that was a safe one. I felt like both of us could come up with something for that one for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, hardest you laughed this year. I mean, that's the Glee Curse for me. Like, it's like, that's the Jade Eggs. Like that is the hardest I've laughed this year. I feel like that's just.
Mine is non-work related.
Oh, okay.
I mean, yes, I mean, one might say, yes, it was the jade egg. I am going to say us sitting on my bed, opening mini brands.
Yes.
Was so pure and so silly, but it was perfect and exactly what we both needed somehow in that moment. And it was just the pure joy. And it continues to bring us joy and laughter almost daily, even when we're frustrated with it, because that company has some missteps, but that's not the
real problems. But again, it's like we just let go of them. We let go of them.
We do, because that's they're the bad boyfriend that we just can never get over.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah.
But that was a pure joy moment because it was just so innocent, just us mentally becoming children again, being excited to be like, we're going to open these toys. We're going to like swap. We're going to talk about them. We're going to like, I'm going to show you a tiny package of hot dogs and you're genuinely going to be happy for me. Like that's where we were at. And it was just, what a beautiful thing. That joy will live in my brain for life.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. That is a good one. Most memorable event in pop culture. You know what I'm going to say? Britney being freed. I think that's what it is for me. Yeah, that makes sense because thank God. Ooh, she posted shortly before we started, so I have not had time to back check it to see what her thing is. She posted a video of herself from behind and she's kind of swaying back and forth and it looks like she has a tiny bottle in her hand. And she said, "We have a new member of the family. Is it a boy or a girl? Thanks again, babe." And then tagged her fiance. So I think I'm assuming it's a cat because she commented about wanting a cat, right? Oh, I hope she got a cat. That would be so nice. That's kind of where I'm at mentally with that. But I agree with you. I'm so relieved that it happened. Good for her. I hope I never saw her in concert, and I think that that's a true shame. And I would love to someday, but I would love more if she only ever performed if she wanted to. If it was like I never want to perform again, then you know what? I'm happier for you to do that than for me to have that experience. If she ever wants to come back and do like a show, we'll all try and buy tickets before it sells out. But yeah, the only other pop culture in this, I love that this is what I'm going with. It's when Larry Burkhead tweeted at us. Oh, yeah. That was cool. After the Anna Nicole episode. Yep. That was something else. And what I loved was my immediate, when I can't remember which of, I think I found it and sent it to you. And then it was just like, what did we say? Did we say anything that could be offensive? Like, I would love that it was like immediately like damage control. But no, I feel like Larry Burkhead's pretty innocent. Like, I feel like he's. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We were very like, we wish she'd stayed with Larry. Or if we didn't say it in the episode, we feel it because he didn't do anything wrong to her. Mm-mm. And I wish that they had stayed together because she'd probably still be around. Yeah. Now, listen, I've picked 3 from this list. Why don't you pick the next one? Oh, we have the same lists in front of us. I'm assuming. So I think you should choose the next few. I did print it out just in case. Me too. Oh God. Oh, I'm going to want that one. Mm-hmm. It's so terrible that I'm like, I might pick the ones I have an answer for. That's fair. Oh, you know what? Best movie of the year. Ooh. And again, it can be from 2021 or that you saw for the first time in 2021. You know, anything like that. No rules, no boundaries. No rules, no boundaries. I love that I'm like, what movies have I seen? I love that I'm also so unclear. Oh, come on now. Do you want me to go first? Would it help? Yes. Yes. I have 2. Mm-hmm.
because one was recommended, I believe, by a dear listener at some point shortly after I started talking about Ice Cube on the podcast. People were like, hey, have you seen Straight Outta Compton? And I was like, I have not. And they were like, maybe give it a watch. And I sobbed and had a lovely, lovely viewing experience. Ice Cube's son. I'm
Add it to the list.
I'm still mentally in the Blanche list from the last episode where I'm just like, just shout their name out like it's Tourette's. Blanche Tourette's. That's what it is. And my other one, I mention it. I don't think it counts, but that's why I added another one. I saw this movie for the first time in November 2020. Now, I have to give a slight background. My husband and I have a no veto list. We couldn't, over a decade ago, we spent like an hour being like, do you want to watch this movie? No. Okay. Well, how about this one? And it just got just so frustrating that one day he went, tell you what, you just pick. And I went, okay. And I picked a movie. And then the next time it was his pick. And we call it no veto because the other person doesn't get a say. So we've both watched a lot of movies we didn't want to because it just makes life easier for us. And we keep track of it because we're nerds and we like spreadsheets, and it's easier. You have no idea how many times it comes in handy when we're like, did we ever see this? And then you just look in the list and we're like, oh shit, we did. Also comes in handy. We grade them. We give them a 1 to 5. 1 is the lowest you can go. 5 is the highest. We do it for the sake of, because if we're like, oh, hey, I don't remember that movie. We only gave it a 2, not worth watching again. And we move on with our lives. It's helpful. So the movie I'm talking about is Eurovision Song Contest, the story of Fire Saga. Now, in November, and I wrote this down, in November 2020, we watched it. I believe it was a mutual pick for like a date night or something. I gave it a 3.25 because, yes, sometimes we go very far and very specific with our scoring. But I gave it 3.25. Then in June of 2021, so that's only like 8 months later, I chose it as my pick because I was like, I remember liking it, but whatever. This time, I think I paid more attention to it. This time I gave it a 4.5. That movie blew me away when I actually gave it my attention. I think I just didn't pay enough attention the first time around. It's a delight either way. But when I gave it my attention, I'm obsessed with the soundtrack. I just think it's such a beautiful thing. You expect like, okay, it's going to be funny, but then there's just some stuff in it that really, I was touched. So because I feel like my heart found that movie in this year, I'm going to say Eurovision Song Contest is one of my favorite things, even though I found it technically late last year. But
I think that's more than fair. And listen, I'm struggling because I'm like, what did I watch when? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, what did I see? And listen, I'm going to say this right now.
Yeah.
I'm taking documentaries off the table because I watch so many. And it's just too hard for me to choose, is the truth, because I'm obsessed.
You liked Moxie.
I loved Moxie. Do you know what movie I think I'm going to answer though?
Oh, I can't wait. Is it Little Spider-Man?
It's not Little Spider-Man, shockingly.
Okay.
Shockingly so. And I will admit I'm watching it late because I believe it came out a couple years ago, but it was Sound of Metal with Riz Ahmed. I don't know if you saw that, but it's about a drummer. He plays a drummer that's going deaf. And it is, I'll be honest, I came in very skeptical.
Of course.
And I'm not easy on actors. I'm an actor. So when I watch other actors, I'm like, okay, like, what are we doing here? And I was, by the end of it, I was just like, yep. Give him everything. Give him the awards, give him whatever. Like, it was such an amazing performance. It was such an interesting story. And And again, I understand that I watched it late, but that would be my choice. It was
I
so
think that's
great.
lovely.
So great. I really highly recommend it to anybody. Like I feel it does start a little slow, but ultimately like the performances and the story are really unique and interesting. And he's really fucking good. He's really, really good. I was impressed.
I mean, I don't think it matters when it came out. If it moved you this year,
Yeah.
that's what we're looking at.
Great point.
Yeah.
Great
Stand
point.
by it. I stand
Great
by
point.
it. Yeah. Well, if movie was difficult, did you have a favorite book?
You know what? It's hard for me to read.
Yes.
This is something I've learned with my ADHD. It's been hard for me to read for years, but I have a hard time like focusing on a book, but that doesn't mean that I can't read completely. It just means that it has to be something I'm really interested in. And then what happens is that it's like, then I become soul focused on the book. So
Yes.
it's like, I can, then it just takes over everything in my life.
Yeah.
One of the books I loved is Hits. I think it was, I'm so sorry if I'm getting this wrong, but Hit So Hard by Patty Schemmel, who is the drummer from Hole.
Okay.
It's such a good book. Again, much like documentaries, I love autobiographies and biographies. So that book I loved. And then in terms of other books, what else did I read? I think I read that one technically in 2020, if I remember correctly, but I loved that book. I have not started Dave Grohl's book yet. I will read it and I'm sure I'll get through it because that, again, first of all, autobiography. So that's up my alley. And second of all, I'm interested in him and that subject matter. So that's interesting to me. Truthfully, to be honest with you, I read a book. I have read books when researching for the show. And this isn't me trying to bring it back to the show, but genuinely, I read a book about the Grim Sleeper, which is actually right here, written by, so it's The Grim Sleeper, The Lost Women of South Central, written by Christine Pelisek. And I will say that was, I thought, extremely well written. I read a lot more of it than just kind of what I needed to, if that makes sense. And likewise, there's a book called The 27 Club, which I was reading when I was researching Amy Winehouse, and I read a lot of, and I'm going to finish it as well. But those were two that were definitely very also of interest to me.
Hey,
fiction though, to be honest, I don't even know the last time I've read a fiction book. It's hard for me to read. And it's so funny to say because I consider myself to be somebody who is, so interested in that kind of content, but it's really hard for me to focus. I have a very hard time just pleasure reading, if that makes sense.
When we started this, in my New Year's resolution for going into 2020 was that I wanted to read more because I always loved reading and I just felt like I wasn't reading very much. So in the first 6 months of 2020, I put away about 50 or so books and I couldn't have been happier. And then we started this show and the pleasure reading kind of just a pin in it. And to be honest, since then, the only thing I had read was books for work purposes. So the only one that I have read since, I did start reading a Hannah Swenson mystery, which is, she's a Hallmark murder mystery movie series, Murder She Baked. It's a series that they started from the books, and I did start one of those, but didn't have the time to finish it yet. I still will. It's a light read. It gives me joy. But Dave Grohl's Storyteller, I pre-ordered it. I had it within days of it releasing, and I didn't get a chance to start it until being on the plane because I did not take anything work related with me. So it was finally my chance to do pleasure reading. And what a gift of a writer he is. It's just such a beautiful thing. And you feel just really at ease for him just opening up about his life. It's a really beautiful thing. But one of the workbooks that I read, work related, I suppose, The Trial of Lizzie Borden by Kara Robertson. So good. So good. I had to put a pin in it partway through so that I could finish my notes to get ready for the record, but it was really good. It was one of my favorite things I read as far as research goes. So that's where I'm at with that.
I will also just add,
Yeah.
Chuck Palahniuk is one of my favorite authors,
Yes.
and he wrote one of my favorite books of all time, which is called Invisible Monsters. That's probably, again, my favorite book of all time. Is that tied with, it's actually like a young adult book, but it's called There's a Boy in the Girl's Bathroom by Louis Sachar. And that is, I've read that book, oh my gosh, 100 times, maybe more. I love that book. And those are two pieces of fiction that I love. I just felt like I had to give some to prove that I'm like, I have read. I just don't read a lot. I just don't read a lot anymore unless it's like, specific.
People also aren't going to judge you for reading or not reading. You're allowed to, everybody is different. A lot of people don't read at all. And a lot of people just aren't interested. And that's more than fine.
It's such an interesting thing because it's gotten harder the older I've gotten, which is interesting. Yeah, it's weird, but I think it's also because now I can choose not to. Whereas before it would be like, well, I have to for school or whatever. And then I just would, you know what I mean? Like it felt like before there was another stake, but I would also like to say, if you're interested in horror books, shout out to friend of the podcast, Paul PK Kingston.
Yes.
Friend of the podcast, Leslie Seiler's husband. He's written multiple books. But the one that you can get on Amazon is Butterflies in Glass Cases. And I will tell you this, Mother Laurel, devoured that book. Loved that book. And when she was talking to PK about it, she cried.
Wow. Okay.
She was like, it was so great. I couldn't put it down. And then she got a little choked up, and she was like, I'm just so proud of you. It's such an amazing accomplishment. And it was a beautiful moment. And so I put that out there again. He doesn't listen to this show, but you know what? We're paying it forward, which is nice.
Yeah. I do have that book.
Yes.
I'm just waiting on my first moment of pleasure
reading. I know.
I was like, yep, I'm going to get there. And I did eventually.
Yeah. Listen, you choose one more of these and then we're going to take a quick break.
Oh boy.
Timekeeper never truly goes away. Do you know what I mean? Like she's always lurking.
If we're finishing it off.
Yeah.
I feel like it just makes sense. Best moment of the year.
Oh, that's a great one. Do you have one right on the front of your mind?
I do.
Go.
I do. Standing in a sea of people, openly, full, ugly crying, listening to the Foo Fighters play Walk. Yeah. I can barely listen to the song now because it immediately pulls me back. And I never cried before listening to that song. Hearing it live, I just, not even a little bit, I full sobbed. And so now anytime I hear it, it gets a little inkling, just a little something in my chest that I'm like, oh, that's emotion, danger. We're going to emote. And that's where I'm at now. Again, life altering.
Yeah.
That's what that show was.
I love that.
Yeah.
For me, standing in the Regina airport, knowing that I had pulled off the greatest grift of all time.
You really did.
And seeing a little tear come out of her eye.
You've been desperate for me to cry for a long time. Yeah. Yeah. I can't believe
moment of the year for me.
I can't believe we didn't mention that design that you made.
It wasn't on my supplier website. I had to outsource because I was on a timeline. I had to outsource. And then I went to this place and boy, did I have to drive for it, which is totally fine. But I was like in a rental car because my car died. There was so much going on that week. But listen, did I pull it off? Yes, I did. And you know why? Because you can't stop my spirit, universe, whether you want to try to or not.
Nope.
So that's where it is.
That's just who you are.
Listen, I have loved going through all of these highlights, both about the show and about our personal lives. Yeah. Let's take a quick break. We're going to come on back and we're going to bring it home. We're going to talk resolutions.
Yes.
We're going to give a toast. and we're going to bring it home on this New Year's Eve special bonus episode of True Crime and Cocktails. All right, last clap. Ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, I was late.
That's okay.
That's fine.
Welcome back to this episode of True Crime and Cocktails, the New Year's Eve special bonus episode. We've talked about so much, but listen, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about this. It's New Year's resolutions for 2022.
Yeah.
We've talked about our old ones for 2021. Did we keep them up, etc.? Did you come up? Do you have any new resolutions going into 2022?
I do. It's something that came up in my mind in the last month or so. My goal, and it feels silly to say this in this moment. It feels silly to say it at work, but my goal is to work less.
I get that.
We really came out the gate really hard that first year. And just the fact that I realized that I had not read a book for fun in over a year. And I was like, oh, I love reading. That's disappointing. Yeah, I'd like to take more time because I am also, again, in my new spirited, it's time to stop existing and start living. I want to live. So I'm not saying do the show less. I'm just saying find a better balance, I suppose, is maybe a nicer way of putting it.
Yeah. And listen, that could be on me too, because I'm somebody who, my job is all consuming. So for, the past, how old am I now? The past 20 years. I mean, this is it. 80 hours a week. This is it. So yeah, it just is what it is. It's what you eat and breathe and sleep and etc. But I think that is great. I think that's the right choice.
Yeah. It's just a case of sometimes, I am ready for just a small break. And I'm not putting it on you in any way because this isn't on you. There are moments in research I could probably stop and still get us our entire episode, but I don't. And it's no, I need to pick a point where it's this is how long you're allowed to research. This is how long you can write, and then you're done. So I need to get to that point where I'm okay, my days are only 8 to 10 hours of work a day, as opposed to 12 to 16, depending.
Yeah.
I know some days are going to be anyway, but even just a day a week where I don't do as much work stuff would be cool. It would be a nice change. It would be a nice change. So the goal is to figure out how I'm going to accomplish that. Yeah.
And we're not asking for suggestions.
No. It's just more, I need to figure out what works best for me without affecting the product.
Of course.
So
of course. Yeah.
That is something I'm going to figure out, but because I'm not going to research less to give less information.
Of course.
But I just have to I need to figure out a way, and I have some thoughts of how I'm going to go into it at first, but I have to figure out some ways of how to do it in a better way so it's more efficient, maybe.
Yeah, time management is a tough thing, I think, for a lot of people, and I hear you.
Yeah. So that's
absolutely
that's where I'm at.
I think that's a beautiful, wonderful, perfect resolution. Yeah.
Who doesn't want a little time?
Yeah. Time is on your side. Yes, it is.
There are so many options you could have gone with. I'm always impressed. You always go with one I don't expect.
I never choose it. It's just what comes into the old noggin.
Yep.
The noggin
Google.
There it is.
Yeah. Noggin Google. Yep.
I haven't really thought about a resolution for this year because I tend not to, because I think that, resolutions can kind of set you up to fail also when it's like, if it's something specific. But I do think that it's important to set intentions. I think intentions are good. Yeah. So I do think for me, I think it's also like, I think in relation to the show, especially like building on what you've said too, what you've just said, which I think is perfect. I think too, like, I don't time manage either. Like my life is work. Like I don't take breaks ever. And I know that people think like, but the weekends, and it's like, no. And I think that for me, some of what I do is less tangible because people don't see it. So they don't see the 18-hour writing days and, days on set and stuff like that when I'm working and stuff like that. But like, I don't know that I've had a full day off myself either, since, I don't know, other than, like our Vegas trip or things like that, or when I was, going to a funeral. You gotta laugh.
Yeah.
You gotta laugh. But you'll love this, but that's not, I don't know if that's what I'm going to focus on. Cause look, it is what it is. And I can just survive working myself to the bone. I don't have children. I don't have a partner. It's great. I think for me, what it is, and I've started to do this, but I think that my real, true, earnest resolution for 2022, honestly, and this is tough for me, is really learning the delicate art of truly not giving a fuck. Because I spend so much time worrying about responding to people in a certain amount of time, blah, 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 whatever. And I just have to stop caring. I really do. And I know that people think like, oh, that sounds terrible. No. Social media, all of the above, like it can become all consuming. And if you want to let it, like TikTok, for example, like I was getting fairly active on TikTok and then it just became so overwhelming for me. And there was so much shit happening that I just fucking hated that I was like, I'm just going to take a step back. And now I don't read any of the comments. And that may make people sad, but you know what it is that it's like some of you, not you, dear listeners, but some of the people on that platform ruined it for everyone else. Oh, yeah. And I just have to accept that it's like, I have to set the boundary, and boundaries are healthy, that it's like, I cannot open myself up and subject myself to what I have before. Because before it was like, I would spend so much time reading all of it and responding to all of it and trying to be X, Y, or Z. And it's like, I'm just not going to do that anymore. I just can't. I don't physically, mentally, or emotionally have the time. So yeah, I think for me, 2022 is the year of me not giving a shit, which sounds terrible, but it's because I give too much of a shit in general, and I have my entire life.
Yes. To me, you say terrible. To me, in my head, I hear you're going to put yourself first and your mental health first. Yes. And I think that is positive because yes, we get a lot of lovely comments, a lot of lovely messages. We also get some pretty awful stuff. I mean, it goes with the internet, I suppose nowadays.
Yep.
And some of that is just tough to read. And yes, ignoring it is the easiest way to go about it.
Of course.
But when the same person sends you a message on multiple different platforms to let you know how much they hate you, it's just, it's a lot. So,
and I think too,
I get it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think too, other people, and I say this with nothing but love, but I think it's easy to say, just ignore it. And I would challenge anybody to actually experience what it is. And I let it affect me 1%. And it's still significant. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I think it's easy to say, like, just ignore it. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to the haters. And it's like, that diminishes our experience, which I don't care for either, is that it's like, sure, by saying, just ignore it. Don't pay attention. Don't whatever. I understand what the intention is behind those messages. And I appreciate what the intention is, but also it is a part of all of it. It is a part of what all of this is. And I wouldn't change or trade all of this, but it's not realistic or fair to expect us to be impenetrable.
Sure.
It's not realistic or fair of anybody. We're all humans. And again, I know it may feel like it's easy to say, oh, just ignore it. But I would welcome anybody to live it for a week and then come back to me. And I think people would go like, oh, fuck, that's a lot.
Yeah. It's because the negative ones are negative for whatever their reason is. And they don't like if you don't respond or anything, so they just keep amping it up and they keep pushing. And there's so many of them that are out there who are out there because they're on the internet. They can be anonymous and live their lives and say whatever they want, and that's how they handle their life, and that's who they are. But it can get overwhelming at times. And so I respect it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also too, it's like also accepting that, and I would say this for anybody as well, like no one owes anybody anything, like other than your own partner or family or circle. Like you don't owe anybody anything. And I think I've always felt like, and I do feel like it's a privilege to have the job that I have and all of the above, obviously, but it's like, I don't actually owe anybody anything. And I don't have to feel bad if I don't want to share something, or I don't want to talk about something, or I don't want to engage on something. Like, I don't need to feel bad about that because, again, I don't owe anybody anything. I think that it's like social media and whatever has made us kind of, or I'll speak for myself, has made me feel like it's like, oh, I need to engage everybody. I need to do whatever. And I need to respond to everything. And it's like, you don't though. You can make your own rules and you don't need to feel bad about the fact that you don't need to engage on this, whatever this might be.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Social media has been a weird thing to deal with. I mean, I have gotten so busy with our own social media that I don't even do my own personal social media anymore because I just don't really have the time. Because again, working on that time management, you got to find time somewhere. And it's not to say that we don't appreciate the positivity that we get through messages and comments. Of course we do. It's lovely. There are negative ones that we try not to think about, but are there. But that's just people living in a hole, feeling like they need to lash out at somebody, and by all means. But yeah, social media is tough. It's tough because it's always there. My phone goes off a lot of times during the day, and every ding I hear, knowing that I have to go deal with, like immediately my brain's like, well, go deal with it now. Don't leave people waiting. And it's like, I just don't have the time. It's not about desire. It's just, I just don't have the time, because at some point during the day, I would like to see my kids or, spend time, speaking with my husband about something maybe not work related. That'd be great. But
I also need to make it clear that we're not asking for people to fix this situation for us.
No, we're just saying we just understand that if messages or comments or anything are made, a response might be very late or it might not come at all. It doesn't mean we don't see it. It's just sometimes it can get overwhelming and there's a lot of like trying to find the balance and the time. And like, for example, we are recording this. I hate to peek behind the curtain. It was not midnight for us when we did that.
Yes.
It is almost 9 o'clock at night for me. And I'm waiting till we're done this. My family had dinner while we started recording this. So I'm waiting till we're done this to go eat, which is probably why this is hitting so hard. But hard is in the name. Nope, stop it.
No, I liked it.
The point is that we are finding the time as best we can to get to what we can do. And just for everyone to remember, everyone's just doing their best.
Yep.
You know? And then it's not don't take it personally in any way. It's just, we're just two women getting by.
On that note, I believe Christy, now again, I have no prior references, but I believe you've prepared a toast.
I have.
I'd love to hear it.
Well,
I also have drank this entire bottle, but there's still a drop. There we go. I'm ready.
Okay. Well, I warn you, it's like a page. So you're not going to just want to.
I'm going to put that down and listen attentively.
It's going to be like a little lengthy and you'll know when we're getting there. Yep. So Lauren Ash, this year, I had the privilege of watching you blossom into a beautiful researcher. Right out the gate, you dove in headfirst, going down one rabbit hole after another. And no matter the subject material, you took the challenge head on and handled it like a seasoned professional. I can proudly say you no longer just mix the batter, you bake the entire cake, my friend. And something else from this year that I want to touch on before we go, the merch store. This past weekend, and this is a true story, I had to go buy a second dresser because my current one was simply not big enough to house all of my True Crew merch. You have spent months creating so many gorgeous designs. It's been a beautiful thing to watch your creativity grow throughout the year. Designing makes you come alive, and I couldn't be happier to witness it. Now, I hope the True Crew won't mind if I speak for all of us as a whole, but on behalf of the True Crew, let me say that we appreciate all of the time and effort that you have put into making this merch store happen. And the fact that you go so far as to order samples in advance for quality control is amazing. On our recent trip to Vegas, I finally got the chance to use the True Crime and Cocktails backpack that normally sits back there behind me on the shelves. And first, I need to say, this is not an ad. This is not me pushing merch sales in any way. This is just me saying that backpack was not only the perfect size for a carry-on, but so comfortable because it has extra padding in the back. So again, I'm not trying to sell this item. I'm just trying to say that Lauren's attention to detail and quality have not gone unnoticed. And I know that many people may forget that this show is not her main job. On top of this cast, she's got a full-time job. And the fact that she works on that, plus handles the merch store and Patreon and ad stuff and all business stuff, plus doing research, it's too much for anyone to handle. And yet you do so with ease and grace. So for all the times that you don't feel seen, just know that the tireless hours and sleepless nights and all of your work in general is noticed and appreciated. You are, oh no. Oh, she might get her wish. You are the best friend, cousin, sister that I could have ever asked for. And I'm honored to add co-host and business partner to that list. Spending even more time with you, thanks to this show, has been a gift in my life. I have you to thank for it. So thank you to you, Lauren, for bringing this show to the world and for trusting me to not cock it up completely. I don't feel that you get the credit that you deserve. And that's probably because so much of what you do is behind the scenes, but you are the true heart of this show. And I'm honored to be along for this ride. And just know you impress me every single day.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And quickly, thank you to our dear listeners for the support throughout the year. We appreciate every download, view, like, positive comment, merch sale, everything. You are the reason that we continue to do what we do. And without you, there would be no show. So thank you to you. And thank you to my best gal over there.
Well, listen, that was a beautiful toast. I mean, listen, you got me, though it doesn't feel like that's a huge thing because I cry at the drop of a goddamn hat.
Don't take this away from me.
I will not, because you know what? Here's what I'll say. Because what I want to say is like, I should have. No, I'm not going to. I'm going to say, thank you. That was lovely. And I appreciate it. It was beautiful.
You're my best girl.
And you're mine. Listen, thank you so much for listening to this episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We so appreciate that you're here. Like Christy said, it's so very genuinely, what an amazing journey. What an amazing year. I cannot wait to see what 2022 holds. If you haven't already, give us a follow on social media at True Crime and Cocktails on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, at Not Detectives on Twitter. Of course, on Patreon at patreon.com/True Crime and Cocktails. And then, of course, the merch store, which is truecrewmerch.com. What a joy. This has just been so lovely. Almost as much of a romp as the Glee Curse. If you haven't listened to it already, give it a listen. I'm kidding, but all jokes aside, thank you for spending your New Year's Eve with us, or whatever day you're listening to this. It's always a joy, and we appreciate so much you spending your hard-earned time with us. Christy, do you want to tell the people about the next episode? I know it's not even a for sure yet.
I think we pretty much know the poll hasn't ended yet, but it's a runaway on the poll over there.
Yeah.
Because on the next True Crime and Cocktails, it's the December patrons poll pick: murder among the Mormons.
That's right. On Patreon, we have a poll every month for you to help determine one of the 5 episodes we do that month. And that's the one that's the front runner as of now. So I think that's safe to say. We're going to take some time off, much deserved, as we're talking about. We're making Christy's resolution come true, which is the best thing. So we will be back January 11th with that. But until then, Christy, do you want to say goodnight to the people?
Good night, people.
Good night, future time traveling us.